Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. We're going to be very television intensive tonight. But before we do that, we're going to start out with Dr. Sammy Lee. He was the first Asian American to win a gold medal at the Olympics, and he won two in the 1948 and the 1952 games as the best diver in the world. He was also the Sullivan Award winner as the best amateur athlete in 1953. His career extended far beyond that. He served 11 years in the military. He went to medical school and was a practicing physician for 5 decades. And who better to tell the story of Sammy Lee than Groucho? Sammy Lee was a contestant on You Bet Your Life in 1956.
Groucho, we have Nona Morton waiting to talk to you, and her partner is a special guest, one of America's all-time great Olympic stars, Dr. Sammy Lee. So, folks, you come in, please, and meet Groucho Marx.
Get a seating, Lloyd, and you each get an extra $50. It's the common words you always have with you. Sammy Lee, glad to see you.
Glad to see you, too, Groucho.
Glad to see you. In case there's anybody who doesn't know this fella, he's one of our greatest Olympic diving champions.
Thank you.
I thought you were in the Army. Aren't you usually introduced as Major Sammy Lee?
Yes, Groucho, up until 1st of November 1955, I was known as Major Sammy Lee, and I resigned after serving 11 years in the Army and decided to go into private practice in Santa Ana, California.
Which Olympics did you win, 48 or 52?
Well, I was lucky, Groucho. When I finished medical school at the University of Southern California, I made a comeback at the old age of 28 and won them in London in 1948, and also I wanted to see if I were lucky the first time, and I tried again in 52 and was lucky again. Won them both times.
You're just modest, that's all I'm saying. What would you say was the highlight of your athletic career?
I'd say two things stand out in my mind. One was winning the James E. Sullivan Award for the Outstanding Amateur Athlete in America during the year of 1953, which incidentally was the first time a non-Caucasian ever got this award in 25 years. And the second highlight was when Harold Howland of the State Department called and asked if I wanted to be one of America's sports ambassadors to Southeast Asia. And of course, when I was in India, one of the little girls came up and said, "You're the funniest looking American we've ever seen."
Of course, I never got to India.
I didn't have your picture in my wallet. So.
Well, people who have enough money to have a wallet rarely have my picture. Did you visit Korea on this trip?
Yes, I did.
And what happened there?
Well, I got to meet my father's good friend, President Syngman Rhee, and when I got there, I tried to speak Korean to him, and he just laughed. He said, "Sammy, you better speak English because you have a terrible Brooklyn accent and you're Korean."
Well, could you say something for us in Korean?
Yes, Anyangi Hatsamika.
Well, that definitely is not a Brooklyn accent, Sammy.
It's lousy.
Yes, it is. It sounds like the northern part of South Carolina. Well, Sammy, you're a rare species. You won 2 Olympic championships for the United States. You served 11 years in the Army, and on top of that, you won a lot of friends for us in Asia. That's a record that's pretty difficult to beat, and give me 5.
Fine, thanks a lot.
Hey, you impressed Groucho. You've done something. Okay, we're going to move into television now with our feature, Grant Tinker, who died recently at the age of 90, one of the most important figures in television in the second half of the 20th century. He and his then-wife, Mary Tyler Moore, started MTM Enterprises and all the great shows that they created during the 1970s and early 1980s, and then he became chairman and chief executive officer of NBC and essentially rescued the network from oblivion. Comedy writer Ken Levine wrote a nice tribute to Grant Tinker on his blog about television. Television has not just lost a giant, it lost its Babe Ruth. Grant Tinker has died. The man who presided over MTM Enterprises in its heyday and then turned NBC into the #1 network was 90. No one in the history of television has done more to lift the quality and advance the medium than Grant Tinker, and that's not even what made him great. As for those accomplishments, at MTM, he was responsible for the Mary Tyler Moore Show, the Bob Newhart Show, Rhoda, Phyllis, Hill Street Blues, St. Elsewhere. Taking over NBC, which was mired in last place, he brought the world Cheers, Cosby, Taxi, Family Ties, Golden Girls, Miami Vice, Highway to Heaven, and dozens of other hit shows. Come Emmy time, NBC would usually sweep. Compare that to today, when broadcast networks are almost shut out at Emmy time. His famous dictum was, "First be best, then be first." And he practiced it. He brought class, sophistication, and humanity to everything he touched. Over the next few days, you'll read tribute after tribute. If it seems like the industry is praising a saint, that's because in this one instance, it's true. Television and popular culture can never repay the debt owed to Grant Tinker. And for those of us lucky enough to work for him, it's a loss of incalculable measure. He was a visionary, a father figure, an inspiration, a leader in the true sense of the word, and like I said, a mensch. He was the best, and he'll always be first. Here is Morley Safer, whose podcast we've done, introducing Grant Tinker at his Peabody Award presentation.
Our final award is the Rare Personal Peabody Award. From radio to advertising to television networks, from studio head to network CEO, Grant Tinker has been a central figure in the world of electronic media. The CEO of MTM Enterprises in the 1970s and CEO of NBC in the 1980s, he provided creative opportunities that led to some of television's most exciting work and supported the efforts of some of the medium's most inventive artists. The writers and producers who developed their craft in MTM have created some of the greatest programs in television history. In turn, they've given to others the same creative freedom provided by Grant Tinker. For recognizing the potential of a medium and of those who best use the opportunities it affords, the George Foster Peabody Award goes to Grant Tinker.
I can well understand your spirited feelings towards spring's final, albeit belated arrival. Nevertheless, be forewarned, everybody out there is going to feel just as feisty as yourselves. Statistically speaking, expect a 25% increase felony-wise, 30 to 35% misdemeanor-wise. All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Have you had any problems with your heart before?
No, I've always been in tip-top shape.
Well, don't worry. We'll figure it out. Why don't you have a seat? No, sorry. It's another hospital rule.
Are you a doctor?
Yep.
I'm Filipino.
Hi, Phil. Wayne Fiscus.
Miss, would you try answering the questions as I ask them?
Yes, Mr. Grant, I will, but it does seem that you've been asking a lot of very personal questions that don't have a thing to do with my qualifications for this job.
You know what? You got spunk.
Well,
I hate spunk. Tell you what, I'll try you out for a couple of weeks, see if it works out. If I don't like you, I'll fire you.
Right.
You don't like me, I'll fire you.
That certainly seems fair. What's the job?
The job is that of associate producer.
Associate?
Something wrong?
No, I like it. Associate producer?
The job pays $10 less a week than a secretarial job.
That'll be fine.
If you can get by on $15 less a week, we'll make you a producer.
No, I think all I can afford is associate producer.
You can start tomorrow.
Oh, well, that's just wonderful. So I'll see you tomorrow.
Please welcome Grant Tinker.
We do come away from here, I think, today, having had a long lunch, but not just a lunch. I think that we've seen ample evidence that there is some really good work being done, resulting in some significant television. That, to me, is worth it right there. Those of us in prior generations tend to think that we did it better. I think we have indeed seen some examples that we did not. We did some of it pretty well, and the operative word there for me is we, because I've always been a guy of no distinct or specific skills. Before he leaves the room, I want to say that Bud Rukeyser, an erstwhile colleague of mine, he used to hate it when I would say things like that. He said I was polishing the art of self-effacement to a new level. The truth is, it's the truth that I've always needed a lot of help, and I've always had a lot of help. Really heavy lifters. I'm up here, somewhat under false pretenses. I have enjoyed a great deal of success with the help of others. The fact that the two instances cited, MTM and NBC, are two teams that I was just blessed to be on. MTM was a writers' company, a company of wonderful writers like David Milch, who was up here earlier, who provided inspired work to some wonderful actors and directors who brought it to sparkling life. And I enjoyed watching them do that. At NBC, I joined a group of gifted and dedicated and devoted and motivated executives, some of whom are here today, and shared with them just a really satisfying restoration experience. So both of those, I didn't do alone. They say that, or I've said anyway, and a few others too, I'm sure that getting paid to work in television is like stealing. For me, it was. It just was too damn much fun. I feel the same way about the Peabody Award. Not that I'm going to give it back. There were hundreds of co-workers who allowed me to gimp up here today and stand in for them. To the Peabody Board and the University of Georgia, very respectful thanks. I happily accept the honor on behalf of all of them. Thanks very much.
Just like Sammy Lee, for a guy with all his accomplishments, a very modest guy. We're going to turn briefly to another television figure, but one not so well known in the United States, Andrew Sachs, who died recently at the age of 86, did a lot of television in Britain, but he's immortalized for one role, that of Manuel the waiter in Fawlty Towers, the John Cleese series that became popular here in the United States as well. Here's Matthew Bannister of the BBC for last word on Andrew Sachs.
The actor Andrew Sachs will always be associated with one role.
I speak English well. I learned it from a book. Hello.
Playing the hapless Spanish waiter Manuel opposite John Cleese's irritable hotelier in Fawlty Towers made Andrew Sachs one of comedy's most memorable stars. The series was voted #1 in a list of the greatest British TV programmes in the year 2000. John Cleese says his favourite episode was the one where a dead body is discovered in one of the hotel rooms.
I think that was some of our very best physical comedy.
Is somebody coming, Mr. Fawlty? I don't want to work here anymore. Open the basket.
He's one of the easiest to work with, but he just was a brilliant farcer, and it was so easy for us to work out all the physical business.
Open the basket! Now, inside. Not you! I quit! Get out! I will strike! I'm warning you!
If you met him, you would never for a moment think he was a comedian. You'd think he was a rather cultivated bank manager, possibly retired, because he was quite quiet and poised and thoughtful. And then you stuck that moustache on him, and he turned into a completely different human being. He was wonderful.
Well, what is television without commercials? So we're going to move to the commercial side of television for a minute and make a brief mention of Milt Moss, who died recently at the age of 83. He was the star of one of the most famous commercials of all time. He spoke some famous words in this 1972 commercial for Alka-Seltzer.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
No, Ralph, I ate it.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
Take 2 Alka-Seltzer.
Alka-Seltzer neutralizes all the acid your stomach has churned out. For your upset stomach and headache, take Alka-Seltzer and feel better fast.
Did you drink your Alka-Seltzer?
The whole thing.
That phrase became one of the touchstones of the 1970s. Perhaps what Milt Moss was referring to there was a Big Mac. So we're going to close tonight with Jim Delligatti, who died recently at the age of 98, and he was the inventor of the Big Mac. He opened one of the first McDonald's franchises in 1957 in Pittsburgh, and at one time he owned 47 franchised McDonald's restaurants. In 1967, one of his McDonald's stores was not doing well, so he invented a new sandwich he called the Big Mac and tried it out in his McDonald's in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, about 40 miles south of Pittsburgh. Tried to persuade the company it was a good idea, but they didn't buy because it didn't fit into their model. But when they saw the sales that it generated, they immediately changed their mind. Of course, like so many of our inventors, he didn't get anything but credit for it, but I guess Jim Delligatti did okay in the long run anyway. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps, and we're going to close with another famous commercial, that for the ingredients of the Big Mac. I don't know who wrote it, but the "You Deserve a Break Today" part was written by none other than Barry Manilow.
To all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun.
Say that again.
To all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun.
McDonald's Big Mac, the big sandwich with the great big taste that everybody's talking about.
To all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, on a sesame seed bun.
McDonald's Big Mac, the great big sandwich with a great big taste.
You deserve a break today at McDonald's.